Hey there, this is Rich with Accu1 Direct. Here's a quick video on getting started with the Accu1 9700. Step one would be plugging in the machine, feeding it power. I'm using 2 extension cords. They're going to be 12 gauge in terms of how thick, so nothing thinner than that. Also, you're going to be using 2 separate circuits in the house that you'll be insulating. Just make sure you have maybe one outlet inside and maybe near the kitchen. The other one could be out near the garage. Would be good, 2 good options. So feeding the machine at the outlets right in front. Press them all the way in. And you know the machine has power when you see the voltage meter on and you have this red button on, or this red light on rather. This is going to be indicating power. All right, the machine now has power. So let's dive into the control board a bit. So on the top left, you have the 3-position toggle switch. If you prefer to operate the machine manually at the machine, this is how you're going to be doing so. The machine does come with a switch. I'll go over that later. And that would be to operate the machine at the end with the hose. So to operate at the machine, you're going to be using the 3-position toggle switch. So over to the right is feed in air. And then over to the left is air only. You're going to want to be airing out the line of hose before taking it out of your customer's home. To the right of the 3-position toggle switch is the e-stop. When it's compressed, the light turns off, indicating there's no power to the machine. So the remote switch, the toggle switch, will not operate unless this is pulled out. In order to do so, you have to twist it to the right. And then it comes out, it'll illuminate red, indicating the machine has power. Going down from there, you have 2 breakers, one for the blower, one for the auger. The auger breaker will pop if there's too much material fed in at one time. You'll notice the augers will stop, the air will stay on. And in order to reset this breaker, it's pretty obvious when it pops out. All you have to do is press it in. Going down from there, you have an override switch, which really isn't meant to be used unless there's an issue within the machine's panel board, or if there's, I suppose, if you lose the remote. But if you lost the remote, I would still operate with 3-position toggle. So again, this machine, or this button rather, operates everything directly. So you'll have no controls over the airspeed or really of anything, because this is providing the machine with direct power. And again, I wouldn't operate the machine this way unless there's an issue within the board and you need to just get the job completed. Going down from there, you have the hour meter, and then you also have the voltage meter. Again, the voltage should read 120 when given power initially, and I would try to keep it above 110 or at 110 when there's a hopper full of material and the air is on at max. The blower speed is the last little function control at the bottom. At 10, you have max air. Turning it all the way down to 0 cuts the air completely. So the machine has power. The details of the control board are understood. It's time to prime the material. So in the back of the machine, you have a hand crank, and you're going to spin it in a counterclockwise position to make sure it's closed. The material meter, there's an orange indicator that should be all the way over to the left beyond 1 that will indicate that it's fully closed. And at this point, you should turn the blower off. That way, if you can hear anything that may sound amiss. But we're going to turn the feed on. And we're going to feed in the material. At this point, putting the material in vertically like I just demonstrated is a good way to do it. I wouldn't force feed the material down. I would allow the machine to prime the material on its own. Let the machine work for you. Okay, so at this point, the hopper is filled with primed material. You'll notice all the material is broken up. There's no large chunks. You're ahead of yourself. You're ready to go. So in order to send it, what we'll do is open the material gate to about a 10 by using the hand crank in the back of the machine, spinning it clockwise, and going all the way to 10. Ten would be a good starting point instead of opening up all the way, just to be a little bit more conservative upon starting. I would also make sure the blower at this point is turning up all the way. At this point, you're gonna wanna make sure your remote switch is plugged into the machine in the remote receptacle labeled beneath the panel board. You're gonna also wanna make sure the hose is attached to the machine and ready to go. All right, here's some tips on troubleshooting. You're in the field, you're trying to operate the machine with the remote switch, and nothing's happening. You're also trying to operate it with the toggle switch and there's nothing going on. First thing I would check would be the e-stop. Pull it out, make sure it's illuminated red. Very common to see somebody turn this off, didn't notice it, and you lose remote function. So that's the first thing I would check to make sure this is illuminated red, otherwise nothing will work. A few other tips would be careful with what style knife you use to open the bags and be mindful of where you put it. So I recommend using a plastic housing style knife, anything inexpensive, maybe a painter's knife, something that will damage only itself if it falls into the machine. So, there's ways to open the bags without a knife, and that's actually the best way to do it, so that way you don't have to worry about it at all. One other quick note would be on clogging. So understanding the ratio of air and material is important. I generally, for an attic open blow, recommend using max air. If it gets too dusty with max air, I would just make sure that you're decreasing the material at the material gate if you're decreasing the air. If you have it open too far on the material gate and decrease the air, the chances of clogging will increase. So let's just make sure, what I would do in a clogging scenario would be to just make sure you cut back the material a little bit and making sure your air is at max, get through the clog. And then if you need to decrease your air, make sure you decrease the material as well.
Accu1 Direct, manufactured and sold direct to you.